Your wife may be living a double life, right there in your own bedroom. And what I'm about to share will open your eyes. These 5 hidden cravings explain why she's grown distant, even disinterested. This might be tough to hear, but it could be the wake-up call that saves your connection. Before we go deeper into this uncomfortable but crucial truth, do me a favor. Tap that subscribe button, hit like, and drop a comment with your city. Let's see where you're tuning in from. What you're about to hear isn't easy, but you deserve honesty. You've likely sensed something has changed, and now it's time to understand why. This insight might just shake up everything you thought you knew about marriage. Many men spend decades with their wives without ever realizing she has longings and dreams she's never put into words. And it's not because she doesn't care about you. It's because she's been taught by culture, family, and even you at times to hide this side of herself. The woman you see every day? That's the version she thinks she's supposed to be. But there's another part of her, more intimate, more raw, more real that she rarely, if ever, shows. Sometimes that version only exists in her thoughts or in moments she doesn't share with you. She's not bad, and this isn't about betrayal. It's about humanity. She has emotional and physical needs that don't always fit inside the mold of what a good wife is supposed to want. So stay with me through all 5 truths. Because once you understand what's really going on, it won't just change how you see her. It could reignite the love and passion you thought were long gone.
Thing number 1, the power dynamic she craves but can't ask for. Your wife fantasizes about dominance and submission games that have never entered your bedroom. Not violent or degrading scenarios, but psychological power play that makes her feel completely desired and possessed. She wants to experience the thrill of surrendering control to someone who takes charge with confidence and intensity. It's about the psychological rush of being with a man who knows what he wants and takes it. She craves the feeling of being so desired that you can't control yourself around her. She wants to feel your overwhelming need for her, not your polite consideration. The tragic irony is that the safety and respect of marriage often kills this dynamic. You've learned to be considerate, to ask permission, to make sure she's comfortable. These are good qualities in a husband, but they can be passion killers in intimate moments. She appreciates your kindness, but she secretly misses the intensity of being wanted with desperate hunger. The psychological complexity goes deeper. She needs to trust you completely to surrender control. But the very act of surrender requires you to step into a role you've been conditioned to avoid. Modern men are taught to be gentle and egalitarian, which conflicts with the primal dominance that creates sexual tension. Watch her reactions when you see dominant male characters in movies or books. Notice how she responds to men who command attention and respect. She's attracted to the confidence and authority that you might interpret as arrogance or aggression. What looks like toxic masculinity to you might represent exactly the energy she's missing in her sexual life. This creates an impossible situation. She wants you to read her mind and become more dominant without her having to ask, because asking ruins the fantasy. She needs you to take charge naturally, instinctively, but you've been trained to seek consent and approval for everything. If this first revelation surprised you, prepare yourself. The next thing she's hiding is even more psychologically complex and potentially damaging to your relationship. Thing number 2, the emotional intensity she's not getting. Your wife wants to feel used in the best possible way. She wants to experience sex that feels primal, urgent, and slightly out of control. She craves emotional intensity that makes her feel like you can't resist her, like your desire for her is so powerful it overwhelms your usual restraint and consideration. This doesn't mean she wants you to be selfish or inconsiderate. She wants to feel like the object of such intense desire that you temporarily lose your civilized composure. She wants intimacy that feels necessary rather than polite, urgent rather than scheduled, passionate rather than considerate. The psychological need behind this desire is complex. Women are socialized to please others and put everyone's needs first. In her daily life, she's constantly managing other people's emotions, solving problems, and maintaining harmony. Private moments become one of the few places where she can fantasize about being the center of someone's universe. But here's the cruel irony. The better husband you become, the less likely you are to provide this intensity.
You've learned to be predictable, reliable, and considerate. You ask how she's feeling. You make sure she's comfortable. You follow the same gentle routine that worked once upon a time. She appreciates your thoughtfulness, but part of her misses the desperate hunger of new relationships. She remembers when connection felt urgent and unpredictable. She misses the feeling of being so desired that normal rules and routines went out the window. The emotional intensity she's missing isn't just physical. She wants to feel like you drive you wild with desire. She wants to see in your eyes that you find her irresistible. She wants to feel like she has the power to make you lose control, even though she also wants you to take control. Notice how she reacts to passionate scenes in movies or books. Pay attention to what captures her imagination in romance novels or films. She's often drawn to scenarios where desire overwhelms logic, where characters can't resist each other despite obstacles or consequences. She can't ask for this intensity directly because it sounds selfish or unrealistic. How do you tell your considerate husband that you want him to be less considerate? How do you explain that his respectful approach sometimes feels passionless without hurting his feelings? The result is that she settles for pleasant but uninspiring connection, while fantasizing about the intensity that's missing. She appreciates what you give her, but she secretly craves what you're afraid to show her. If these first two revelations are making you uncomfortable, the third one will be even harder to accept. It involves her mental and emotional infidelity that happens right in your bedroom. Thing number 3, the other men in her mind. While you're sharing intimate moments with your wife, she's often thinking about other men, not necessarily specific people she knows, but fantasies that involve different scenarios, different personalities, different types of masculinity than what you provide. This isn't emotional cheating, it's psychological survival in a romantically monotonous marriage. The psychology behind this is both simple and devastating. Female attraction often depends on mental stimulation and emotional fantasy. When physical connection becomes routine and predictable, her mind seeks novelty elsewhere. She creates mental scenarios that provide the excitement and variety that's missing from your actual relationship. These fantasies serve multiple psychological functions. They allow her to experience different types of desire without the complications of actual infidelity. They provide mental stimulation when the physical routine becomes boring. They let her explore aspects of attraction that don't fit into her role as your wife. The men in her fantasies often represent everything you're not. If you're gentle when considerate, she might fantasize about someone more aggressive and commanding. If you're predictable and safe, she might imagine someone dangerous and unpredictable. If you're familiar and comfortable, she might dream about mysterious strangers. The cruelest part is that she often feels guilty about these fantasies, which makes her even less likely to communicate about what's missing in your romantic relationship. She knows you're trying to please her, and she doesn't want to hurt your feelings by admitting that her mind often wanders to other scenarios. Her mental infidelity might involve past lovers who provided experiences you've never given her. It could include celebrity fantasies or completely imaginary scenarios.
Sometimes she's imagining you, but a version of you with different personality traits or approaches to romance. The frequency and intensity of these fantasies often correlate with her level of satisfaction in your marriage. The more routine and predictable your connection becomes, the more her mind seeks stimulation elsewhere. She's not choosing to be unfaithful. She's unconsciously protecting her desires from dying completely. Watch for signs of mental absence during connection. Notice if she seems distracted or elsewhere during supposedly intimate moments. Pay attention to whether she closes her eyes and seems to be in a different world. These might be indicators that she's seeking mental stimulation that you're not providing. If learning about her mental infidelity disturbs you, the fourth revelation will explain why your romantic routine has become so predictable and unsatisfying for both of you. Thing number 4, her secret hatred of your romantic routine. Your wife has grown to despise the predictability of your intimate life, but she's too polite or too tired to tell you. She knows exactly what will happen, when it will happen, and how it will unfold. This predictability has killed her natural desire and turned intimate moments into obligations she endures rather than experiences she enjoys. The psychological impact of romantic routine on women is devastating, but rarely discussed. Female attraction often depends on anticipation, surprise, and emotional connection. When connection becomes as predictable as brushing teeth, her body and mind stop responding with genuine excitement. She's memorized your patterns. She knows when you'll initiate, how you'll approach her, what sequence of activities will follow, and approximately how long everything will take. This knowledge eliminates the psychological excitement that makes connection compelling rather than dutiful. The routine doesn't just bore her, it makes her feel disconnected from her own desires. She starts to see intimate moments as performances rather than genuine expressions of attraction. She goes through the motions because she loves you and wants to maintain your relationship, but she's not emotionally or physically engaged. The psychological need for novelty and surprise in female attraction is often misunderstood by men. You might think that perfecting a routine shows love and attention to her preferences, but women often crave the unpredictability and spontaneity that routine specifically eliminates. She remembers when the connection felt exciting and uncertain. She misses not knowing exactly what would happen or how the evening would unfold. She craves the psychological tension that comes from unpredictability, but she doesn't know how to ask for it without seeming critical or ungrateful. This creates a feedback loop where routine breeds more routine. As she becomes less enthusiastic, you might become more cautious and stick even more closely to what has worked before. Her decreasing responsiveness makes you less confident about trying new approaches, so you default to familiar patterns. Notice how she responds to spontaneous gestures or unexpected approaches. Pay attention to whether she seems more engaged when you break from typical patterns. Her body language and enthusiasm levels often reveal how much the routine has affected her genuine desire and engagement. If this fourth revelation has made you realize how predictable your relationship has become, the final truth will be the most painful but important for understanding where your marriage really stands. Thing number 5, the emotional disconnection she's learned to hide. Your wife has learned to disconnect emotionally during intimate moments with you.
She's developed the ability to be physically present while mentally and emotionally absent. This disconnection protects her from disappointment and boredom, but it also signals that she's given up on experiencing genuine passion and connection in your marriage. This emotional withdrawal doesn't happen overnight. It's a gradual process that develops as repeated disappointments and unmet needs teach her to expect less and protect herself more. She still participates in romantic moments, but she's learned to manage her expectations and guard her heart. The psychological mechanism behind this disconnection is complex. When someone repeatedly experiences a connection that feels obligatory rather than passionate, their mind develops protective strategies. She might focus on other thoughts, plan tomorrow's activities, or simply endure the physical experience without emotional investment. This disconnection serves multiple purposes.
It protects her from feeling disappointed when connection lacks the passion and excitement she craves. It helps her fulfill what she sees as her marital obligations without the emotional cost of constant unfulfillment. It allows her to maintain the relationship while preserving some part of herself. Watch for signs of this emotional absence. She might seem efficient rather than passionate, focused on completion rather than enjoyment. She might avoid eye contact, seem distracted, or appear to be going through practiced motions rather than responding to genuine desire. This disconnection affects more than just intimate moments. It often spreads to other areas of emotional and physical affection. Once she learns to protect herself in one vulnerable area, she might unconsciously extend that protection to other aspects of your relationship. The most devastating aspect is that this emotional withdrawal often coincides with her seeking emotional connection elsewhere. She might develop intense friendships, emotional affairs, or fantasy relationships that provide the engagement and excitement she stopped expecting from you. This emotional absence during intimate moments often indicates that she's already begun the psychological process of detaching from the marriage. She's finding ways to protect her emotional and sexual needs that don't depend on your relationship improving or changing. If you've recognized signs of this disconnection, understand that it represents the final stage of romantic and emotional disappointment. It's her last attempt to preserve some part of herself while maintaining the appearance of a functioning marriage. Now that you understand what she's hiding, you need to understand why she can't tell you directly. The reasons go beyond simple communication problems. They're rooted in deep psychological and social conditioning that makes honest sexual communication nearly impossible for many wives. Society has taught her that good wives are satisfied with whatever their husbands provide. She's been conditioned to believe that expressing romantic dissatisfaction makes her ungrateful, selfish, or demanding. She's learned that wanting more passion or variety might threaten the stability she's supposed to prioritize above her personal desires. The fear of hurting your feelings often outweighs her need for romantic fulfillment. She knows you're trying to be a good husband, and she doesn't want to make you feel inadequate or rejected. She chooses to protect your ego rather than advocate for her own needs. Even though this choice slowly kills her enthusiasm and engagement, she's also afraid that honesty might reveal incompatibilities that threaten your entire relationship.
It feels safer to settle for an unsatisfying connection than to risk discovering that you can't or won't provide what she actually needs. The unknown consequences of honesty seem more threatening than the known disappointment of silence. There's also an internal conflict between her role as a wife and her identity as a passionate being. She's learned to prioritize relationship harmony over personal fulfillment, but this creates resentment and disconnection that eventually undermines the very harmony she's trying to preserve. Understanding these psychological barriers helps explain why direct confrontation about romantic issues rarely works. She's not keeping secrets to hurt you. She's protecting both of you from truth she believes might damage your relationship beyond repair. This information isn't meant to make you paranoid or resentful. It's meant to help you understand that romantic satisfaction in marriage requires ongoing attention, communication, and willingness to grow and change together. The alternative is slow, emotional, and physical disconnection that ultimately destroys the connection you're trying to preserve. The women who hide these truths aren't evil or unfaithful. They're trapped between their authentic desires and their commitment to their marriages. They're making daily choices to prioritize relationship stability over personal fulfillment. But this sacrifice has limits and consequences. Understanding her hidden world gives you the opportunity to address problems before they become irreversible. Recognizing the signs of disconnection, routine, and unfulfillment allows you to make changes that serve both your needs and the health of your relationship. If you've made it this far, you're already different from most men who prefer comfortable lies to difficult truths. Recognizing these patterns in your own marriage takes courage, but it's the first step towards rebuilding genuine intimacy and passion. Drop a comment and let me know, did any of these revelations explain something you've been sensing in your own relationship? Sometimes understanding the problem is the first step towards solving it. Your marriage doesn't have to follow this pattern, but only if you're willing to face these truths and make real changes. The choice is yours: comfortable ignorance or difficult growth. But remember, she's already making her choice every day, whether you're aware of it or not. Thanks for watching, and remember, understanding her psychology isn't about controlling her. It's about becoming the man she chose to marry before routine and complacency change.